Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of MTD Watch. For those of you who are listening, it may not recognize my voice, but it's actually Aaron speaking today. I won't be doing too much speaking today, so that could be a good thing. And especially the fact that we've got an amazing guest lined up for you as well. So, powered by the ITSA Accounting Network, this is the show where we cut through the noise and dive into what MTD really means for your practice, from price and preparation tools, and that helping firms get ahead. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Patrick, aka the QuickBooks Chap, and joining me today are two of the sharpest minds in MTD strategy. We have Amy Hancock, co-host of the Accountant Labs podcast, and also #Audit Amy. Amy, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. And I'm thinking maybe I should have taken over that intro from you with your poor voice.
Maybe. And I'm not in the best environment either, so apologies for the background noise as well. And then Suzannah, M.ICB bookkeeper and MTD specialist, #MTD Queen. How are you doing? I can't believe it's been another week since we last time I was in Brewdog and you lot were joining in. How are you doing, Suzannah?
I know. Yeah, all good here, thank you. Just got a serious case of FOMO after hearing about last night, but other than that, all good.
Yeah, it was last night. For anyone who doesn't know, and trying to figure out when this was recorded, last night was the Accounting Excellence Awards 2025. So very, very good night. Unfortunately, S Accountant didn't win, but I'm really happy for everyone who was out there. And obviously, we have a special guest with us today. Nick, tell the world who you are and why you're here. Go for it.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me. So I'm Nick Moss, and I head up the pre-sales and training team at TaxCalc, making sure that all of our existing customers know how to use the software to its best ability, and making sure that anyone who is thinking about taking up TaxCalc has all the knowledge to help them make the right decision, right? Whether it's the right decision for them to move to us or not, right? I'm sure that there are a small proportion of practices where our needs don't meet them, but the vast majority do. So it's making sure that that what we present to them is honest and open, right? So I'm sure you'll probably feel this over the next hour, right? That honest and openness will be a core part of what we're going to go through today. So yeah, before that I used to work at another provider industry, and then before that I worked in practice for a number of years. I'm AAT qualified, but I would say I wasn't the greatest accountant in the world myself, which does make it a bit interesting that I train accountants on certain things from time to time. But getting in the weeds with the MTD stuff is interesting. Has been good over the last probably 12 months for me particularly. But yeah, interesting. But yeah, we'll see how I fare with some grilling today.
Hope you prepared for the grilling. But no, I'm really excited to have you on. I think there's a really interesting conversation, this one, on how to deliver MTD a different way. So really looking forward to getting into the weeds of that one. In this series, we'll be unpacking the true cost of MTD readiness, exposing the common pitfalls and grilling the software vendors like we're going to do today on what's working, and even dive into what isn't. We're broadcasting live across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And this episode will also be available on demand on all your major podcasting platforms. Be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a moment of the new series. And if you're watching live, drop your question and curveballs in the chat, just like we already have. Kirsty was the first one then in. Hello, everyone. Dreary March, and heating is on, so she's had to turn the heating on. That's always a bad sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, who's here as well? Say good afternoon, everyone, from cloudy London. Then Mahu drops in the #Audit Amy and #MTD Queen. And then Marcus B is also here as well. Hey, folks. Pray for Aaron's voice. It's too late for that one. But thank you very much. All right, let's kick this off then, because I feel like this is definitely going to be a really interesting conversation in the way that you're able to position TaxCalc. Because typically, when it comes to everyone's conversations around MTD, it's always been about what FMS solution we're looking to do, right? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be QuickBooks? Is it Sage? Is it Xero? Is it Free Agent? But we've definitely heard some conversations about how, from a TaxCalc point of view, it can definitely be brought into it. And there's been some talk about how there's certain firms out there is going to be completely agnostic. They'll allow their clients to use any form of software they want. Their final submissions and their quarterly submissions is going to go through TaxCalc. Did you guys ever think that was going to be a possibility when you were kind of building your platform and putting it together? Where's that come from, do you think?
Yeah, so I think with TaxCalc is we do absolutely see ourselves as a bookkeeping agnostic product, right? Fundamentally, because we don't sit in that bookkeeping space. So the way we were always going to kind of head off MTD was similar to how we've said on the VAT filer side of it. That of course, if you've got a bookkeeping system that manages VAT, you were going to make your VAT submissions through the bookkeeping products, and in my opinion, that should always be the option of choice if available to your clients. But there's always going to be situations where your clients aren't going to be relevant for bookkeeping solutions. They need a suitable way of getting around it, and that's where TaxCalc's bridging solution, effectively an Excel spreadsheet uploader and submitting tool to HMRC, kind of fits in that mold. We would always say that the bookkeeping system should be the first option. I have my own personal preference, so we'll get onto that as we get through what my bookkeeping choice would be in that scenario. But the fact that there is an option for those clients that either don't want to use it because think it's cost prohibitive, or they particularly don't get on with a bookkeeping solution I've tried in the past and not been able to, there is a way of being able to keep them compliant using the bridging solution in TaxCalc, which is effectively an Excel spreadsheet. I'm sure I'll get into it later on, but it's effectively an Excel spreadsheet that that you can be any design they want. Of course, TaxCalc's provided a template function for your clients to use, which you can take the TaxCalc logo off it and make it your own practice branded one if you wanted to. And we have a mapping document that takes all those figures from the Excel spreadsheet and puts them into the TaxCalc bridging solution to then go and file it on a quarterly basis. But it can be whatever layout you want, right? So if your client has designed their own spreadsheet and been kind of doing bookkeeping on spreadsheets already, you effectively just need to layer a front tab on that with the relevant HMRC feeds that they want in terms of the full form or short form from a tax perspective. Upload that into HMRC every quarter, and you're good to go. One thing that I think that was one of the first things that I picked up on it. I'm sure that we're into series 10 of this podcast, right? So I'm sure it's not the first time you mentioned it, but one of the big differences I found with bridging solutions in TaxCalc that people struggle to get their head around it, particularly on a quarterly basis, the type of data that goes onto it, right? In terms of its cumulative data that you're submitting on a quarterly basis, rather than just single quarters like VAT. I personally think that makes it easier to understand for your clients to populate that spreadsheet with that information, because they don't have to do a fresh spreadsheet each quarter and remember what goes in each column. They can just append that information onto that spreadsheet for a full year. So that fourth submission is basically just a full year's data submission to HMRC for the quarter. So yeah, and TaxCalc's solution will fundamentally make it dead easy for your clients that don't want a bookkeeping solution. And in terms of doing a day-to-day one, I do think that's what they should be using for a variety of reasons. But if it doesn't suit them, the spreadsheet solution is totally compliant, and I think that was a message which I think was a bit blurred at the start of this, where some providers in the market were saying that you had to be on a bookkeeping solution to maintain your digital records and to be compliant for MTD. Fundamentally, you do not have to do that. You can use a spreadsheet with TaxCalc bridging solution, or to be fair, any other bridging solution on the market, right? I appreciate I'm here to talk TaxCalc, but realistically, they do very similar things. But the point is that even if you don't want to use a bookkeeping solution, you don't have to. You still have to file, right? That's the big thing. Yep. I know the exemptions criteria came out this week, so which I'm sure a lot of people were interested to delve into. But yeah, with the TaxCalc system, you can stay compliant on spreadsheets. That's the main thing. I'm sure we'll get onto the final declaration bit as well later on in the hour.
Definitely. I think when you mentioned about the news coming out at the start of the year that we had to use software, that created bookkeeping software, that created that panic. And certainly for me and my clients, I know I bang on about my subcontractors on the building site. They listen, they'll be like, oh God, stop going on about it. But I'm still battling with them. I think they've stopped answering the phone to me now. They're resisting so much. And I think for the first half of the year, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And actually, this is a solution where I can go, do you know what? Let's not rush it. It would be great if we can get you on a bookkeeping software, but at least you can be compliant. And you're talking about the cumulative thing, massively going to help, because I can see what's going to happen with some of them. You want to get this in monthly. Suzanna's going to be like, oh, but some of them are going to drop them off quarterly. It's realistic. It's clients. No matter what they say, I can't force them to come around. They're going to drop off things to me quarterly. we're going to have to keep, if it was a quarterly submission like that return, right, was that in that quarter? Was that in that quarter? Blah, blah, blah. The cumulative is just going to make it so much easier for us.
Yeah.
So TaxCalc bringing this out and other bridging solutions bringing it out is definitely put my mind to rest. And I think it will put a lot of other accountants and bookkeepers' mind to rest, going, do you know what? We're still facing this. People are not getting on software and they're not getting the business bank account to make it easier. We can still be compliant without taking that step. So news when it came out was definitely relief to my ears.
Yeah, and you know, I think the business bank account is a big thing. You know, I appreciate that. You know, with a spreadsheet, sometimes maybe harder to get your client to get used to the business bank account. But equally, if you can get them onto a separate bank account, it's then just a case of detailing out on a spreadsheet what's gone through that, right? I think that should always be the first point of call, no matter if they're in bookkeeping software or not, right? Getting them on with that separate bank account as a primary thing. But yeah, the knock-on effect of that is that in TaxCalc, I think Emmy mentioned it a few weeks ago, and I just want to clarify exactly how the function works. But in TaxCalc, if you have effectively used a license for the quarterly filer in TaxCalc, you'll be able to see if the quarterly submission has been fulfilled, no matter what software it was submitted from. Yeah. So you know, if say your client does their own bookkeeping in QuickBooks and is responsible for making their own submission from their own license, you will be able to see that in TaxCalc if that submission has been made or not, which is quite nice. And then the whole point is that once you've done all your 4 quarterly submissions through whatever software it is, whether it's TaxCalc's bridging solution, QuickBooks, Free Agent, Xero, any other product in the market, the point is that when you come to do your final tax return or declaration, whatever the various different names have gone through to get to this point, you'll be able to go through a similar function to the fetch that you have now, where it can pull through the P60 information, P11D, marriage allowance, that type of thing, and it will be able to pull through that information from HMRC and populate it into the correct boxes on the tax return, which is, you know, for those clients, particularly where you don't do a set of sole trader accounts, where you want to pull that information across anyway, right, and probably overwrite what's come through from HMRC because you'll have various different bits of information there anyway. But for those clients where you don't do a set of sole trader accounts, being able to just take that information that you've submitted on a quarterly basis and put it straight into the tax return, no matter how they have submitted it, is that bookkeeping agnostic approach that I was referencing, where no matter what they've used to get it in, you can then have a consistent approach for your year-end tax return, and just try and make it easy for your staff, really.
And can I just clarify one thing on that one? Because this is a bit where I keep getting different answers depending on what vendor I talk to.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel that from TaxCalc's point of view, you already have your UI that you've designed, that you've always been using to send SA 100s, right? From what I can tell, you guys are basically keeping that same UI, that same solution to file an MTD or a non-MTD. And then I know you've now got this fetch function, which sounds amazing and definitely going to be useful. But a lot of vendors out there have built this whole new UI, this whole new solution, and badged it as a whole new solution. Is that something that you think that they were forced to do, or do you think you guys have found a clever way, or what came to the decision? And have I got that right? Is that exactly how it works?
It is exactly the same year-end tax return layout and completion, no matter if it's someone who is requiring to do quarterly updates for, let's say they've got a turnover of £50,000, or if it's someone who's got a turnover of £20,000 for the first year. It's fundamentally the exact same end-of-year tax return process. The difference is that, what we actually submit to HMRC at the end, right, is technically different, right? What we submit if they are a non-MTD required individual is we submit the full tax return figures to HMRC, right? Because they obviously don't have any of that data at that point in time. For the clients which they are MTD regulated in terms you have to make that those quarterly submissions, the actual data that we submit to HMRC at the point of sending the final tax return is the differences between what HMRC have at their end and what we have on the tax return. Now, your client will never see that or feel that, right? Because they're signing the tax return with the total figures on. But what actually gets sent is effectively a difference reconciliation between what was previously submitted via the 4 quarterly updates and what is on the final year tax return. So it's a slight change of that data, but it feels no different to the client at a year-end position.
Okay.
And that's so powerful, right? As a practice trying to grow, or you've got multiple teams or multiple team members, having to have two different types of software for MTD versus non-MTD and trying to figure out, or I know some practices are saying, right, well, we're gonna file all our final year submissions via whatever software we've done our quarterly. That just, I don't know, there's something about that I feel like that's going to really hamper growth if you're not careful, right? Because that seems like a real barrier of capacity at that point, right? Having to learn all those, you can have specialisms for all the different FMS. It just feels like that's going to be, I feel your approach there where you could just normalize it, right? A personal tax return gets filed via this solution, and basically you're basically saying in the background what tubes it's going down, right?
Yeah.
Everything there. So the fact that you guys have shown it can be done, I hope other vendors see that and take note from that, because I feel like this whole idea of recreating the wheel each time is just going to end in tears, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, right? There's a huge battleground going on for the likes of free agent having compliant SA 100 tax returns and owning that entire process. The same with the QuickBooks and Xero, right? And that's the battleground that they are hoping to win. I just feel like unless you are a practice that is one bookkeeping provider only, and I think that the larger that potentially you want to go to practice, I'm not saying that every practice does want to grow, right? A lot of people are happy with the client base that they have, right? But if you want to grow and at a maybe quicker rate than maybe some others are doing, only providing one bookkeeping solution could potentially hamper that. Not saying that it's an incorrect decision for them if they find it easier, that it's up to the individual to say, look, I'm only going to take on that particular client. That's absolutely fine, right? But the fact that it makes it easy for the staff member, that year-end procedure, to say, right, the tax return is consistent no matter what that client has chosen to use for their bookkeeping solution, makes that end-of-year process less of a worry for your first MTD tax return than it was 3 years ago for when MTD was mooted, but we didn't know when it was coming through. So, yeah, it's a standardized approach, right? It's no different than we have in accounts production, right? So in accounts production, you're able to have two-way integration between QuickBooks, Xero, and Free Agent. I'd like Sage to be added to that list. It just takes time to get these things added in, where you can pull the information across from the trial balance in the bookkeeping system in TaxCalc, do a complete set of accounts in there. Any adjustments that you've made, you can then push that back to the bookkeeping system to update it automatically rather than doing adjustments. So it's a consistent approach for a set of accounts rather than needing to know 3 or 4 different systems to do your year-end accounts procedures. So it's the same concept, but in personal tax rather than accounts. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it's a slightly different way of thinking than maybe people thought was possible in MTD.
I love that. Suzannah, from your point of view, because you got a really interesting viewpoint on this, I think, that you can bring to the table, where how do you think it's going to work when you might be, as a bookkeeper, might be working with an accountant, when there's that situation where you're doing the bookkeeping for the sole trader, but then the accountant's going to do the phone. Do you think what Nick's saying there is potentially going to be the only way that's going to work, or would your expectation be that they would come into the software and file it from that? How do you see that relationship working?
I have got one client like that, actually, where although I do self-assessments, I have got one sole trader who has a separate accountant for his year end, and that's because he has other income sources and stuff which the accountant is involved with that I'm not involved with, so it just makes it easier. That one is on Sage, and I've already set up the MTD. I've already authorised them for MTD, so I am the supporting agent, and the accountant will be the primary agent, I think it's called. I don't know how they're going to file the accounts, but that is that is interesting. They may file them directly through Sage, I guess.
You need to know that, right, to be able to support the client, I assume.
Well, I will be filing the MTD through Sage, the quarterly MTD bits through Sage for that one, I imagine. But yeah, no, I need to find out what they're going to do for the year end. I mean, they can access Sage, so they may do it through Sage Final Accounts. I don't know, but they are a practice which will deal with lots of different softwares, and they may be a TaxCalc user, so that might be something that they do. But I should try and find out, actually, because that's interesting.
So I've got it where I'm the accountant and there is a bookkeeper that's doing it, and we've had a chat between us. and it was, do you want to do it? I'm like, well, you do the bookkeeping, you do it.
Yeah.
And she did all the HMRC bits and then messaged me and said, I think I've done it. I don't think I've removed your access. Let me know if you have. So this was a few months ago. I'm like, great. So I'm leaving it to her, but I've obviously got access to the QuickBooks. So and it's already linked for doing sole trader accounts. So I just need to link it for the MTD.
Yeah.
So I don't. And I think actually, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, from an accountant perspective that might not be doing the quarterly submissions, I just need to ensure that all my sole traders that are going to be using MTD are on that list to be able for me to use the fetch function, I'm assuming.
But you'll have to make sure you're their MTD agent. You'll have to register as the agent first. And then they will have already been signed up for MTD via the bookkeeper by the sound of things. So I'm not sure how that works from the software perspective, but it might, I would imagine it's in place once you're the agent.
Yeah, so you'll have a 64.8 listed for them, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be able to fetch the information like you can do for the P60 and P11D information. You can pull that information straight through. So even if say a bookkeeper has submitted the quarterly updates, you'll be able to fetch that down from HMRC. Think of it as almost like I mentioned the tubes, right? You might have 10 different providers for sending the information to HMRC across your firm up to HMRC, and then that has one tube back from HMRC back into TaxCalc, so that information can then pull through into it via a consistent approach. I think consistency is key for this when it's new for everyone. The other thing to reference as well is that a lot of those people who you will pull the information through from HMRC into TaxCalc for the tax return, pull through say sole trade information, whatever, you would still likely then go and produce a set of sole trader accounts, which may have some adjustments in it compared to what was filed in the quarterly updates. You would then be able to whip that information straight from accounts production and overwrite the information which has been pulled through from HMRC if there's been adjustments been made. So it's not to say that what's come through from the quarterly update has to stay forever. You can still overwrite it, whether that be manual typing over it if there's any adjustments you want to make, or still utilizing the pull through from accounts production into tax. So there's a few ways in which you can do it. Another thing to reference as well, I should have said, is there might be for one client, let's say they're on QuickBooks for their sole trader income, but they might have a property as well, but they don't want a second potentially a second bookkeeping license. For that circumstance. So you might find that say if they've got one property with very minimal, it's just monthly income and a couple of outgoings, you might find that that's easy to have a property on a bridging solution for that, right? For that one thing. So they can both go into HMRC for the same client, but from different services. And then that information comes through from HMRC into TaxCalc as one consistent method. So like I said, bookkeeping, in my opinion, should be the primary way you get it sorted, but bridging solution can fill the gap for where the bookkeeping system is not suitable for that client. I do think from the first tranche that's coming in April, from 50,000 above, everyone should be on that bookkeeping solution if needed, right? But once you get, in different situations, but once you get down to 30 and 20, I think the bridging solutions will become much more prevalent in that scenario if something like Zero Simple doesn't fill a need for them. So I appreciate there's always pricing on that, right, in terms of where that sits. I'm sure I'll get asked about that at some point, but the point is that there is a solution for them if what they feel in the market isn't right. That's the thing. So
as an accountant, if I'm not doing the submission, I'm probably getting a little bit into it, but I'm thinking about my list of clients. We've been talking about other softwares, we can put in to QuickBooks if they're being submitted somewhere else, and we can have this core list. Can we have that within TaxCalc even if we aren't doing the submissions?
100%.
So I can have all of my clients, so it can be my control list, pulling in the information no matter where it's gone from. And I think we've spoken about this with some of the other software providers, and they've all said you'd be able to have it as a kind of practice management tool of keeping track on whether people have submitted. Because I think for me as the accountant, if I'm not doing the submissions, I would still like to see that the submissions are going in.
Right. So I've literally, Amy, you've talked. This is a perfect time. So I was talking about this last week with the product team in TaxCalc, because we can have the refresh HMRC status that tells you whether it's been fulfilled or not, no matter what submission that was made in. Where I want to get to with that, and again, I was referencing it with Johan as well last night, probably too late. So whether Johan's remembered it or not, I don't know. Is that if that's surfaceable in TaxCalc, later on down the line, guess what? We want that serviceable engager as well, and being able to complete tasks for you and update Kanban boards for that as well, right? And so this for me is the so I've been doing a lot of talks on MTD, and I've been calling it the hidden MTD challenge, and it's about keeping track of them all. Yeah, I actually think that the submission of the quarterly update is going to be really easy. The actual submission of it. Yes, the work of getting it on a spreadsheet or doing the bookkeeping work, I'm never going to say that is that's going to be dead simple, right? It's different for each client and different for each practice based on the workload. But with the submission of it should be really simple. Yeah, TaxCalc takes about 30 seconds, right? If you know the process and you've got the spreadsheet ready to go, right? I'm sure it's the same in QuickBooks and Xero and the other systems, right? But actually being able to know at the drop of a hat which of my clients have we filed that MTD quarterly update for, no matter what software it's come from, is the important thing. And that's why TaxCalc there's a little ticker at the bottom, maybe I'm sure you use it for personal tax returns that say, how many have we yet to file? How many have we created? How many have we filed? How many are we yet to file? And that helps get it consistent, because you probably file all your personal tax returns through TaxCalc, right? So that is a really useful tool. The thing with quarterly filer is you're going to use lots of different systems to do it. So you need a consistent location that tells you where they're all up to. Otherwise, it's very manual updates to keep track of it. That's where if we can pull that information from HMRC to show that it's been fulfilled and update TaxCalc with that information, why can't we then go and update Johan? I can see Johan's in the chat saying that's the dream and the goal, right? So yeah, it takes time to get those integrations in place, but that's where we're trying to get to from a integration between, in my opinion, the leading compliance tool on the market with the leading practice management tool on the market, right? And that's where Engager gets its power from.
And it's not just the clients. I'd say it's not just clients where you've not filed it for them, but it's you want to know if they filed it as well. Because you're going to have some clients who are going to file by themselves. They're going to continue to put it through. So just having that holistic view, knowing that they're there, because you're not going to be able to complete the end of year tax return if they haven't filed quarterly updates. So you need to know that. And, you know, we're looking at multiple service levels for our clients for MTD, and one of them will just be a really basic check and make sure they're on top of it during the quarterly, so that when we come to our year end, we can actually support them and send it. So a tool like that, it's what I've been asking, like banging on the drum for HMRC to provide for us forever, right? Like since day one, MTD was here. Surely we need a client list that provides us this information. But the fact that you're able to do that it is brilliant. And I assume it's a case of in TaxCalc, you've got to add the individual clients, and as long as it kind of matches up with your 648, that's when it will start populating the data. I assume it's simple as that.
Exactly that, right? So it would take a quarterly filer license, right? Even though you are doing the quarterly submission elsewhere, right? So it would effectively take a license, and I expect we'll have an unlimited license, right? Like we do with all the other products at a reasonable point. But it would then tell you whether the submission has been made, even if it's done in QuickBooks. So then the point is, if that submission has been made, I think I referenced it in a podcast a few weeks ago, we would then be able to know whether it was a TaxCalc submission or whether it was done elsewhere. You'd also then, I expect, in Engager, have a little flag that says, we do the MTD submission, or client does their own MTD submission. So then you could send a mass email out to all of your clients where they haven't submitted it yet, but they do it themselves. Say that's on the 5th of each month, or in the filing months, right? Say, look, you've got 48 hours left. You've not submitted it. Yeah, if you've got any questions, let us know, right? But the point is, you'd be able to segment your client base based on the ones which haven't been filed yet, right? That's the hidden bit that I think people potentially have got they're stuck in the weeds a little bit on the actual submission, the completion of the quarterly update, right? I don't actually think that is going to be a problem for the clients, which are the practice, should I say, that have done their homework. That bit's dead easy, right? If they're on the pilot already for a few clients and they've tried it, I think that bit is fundamentally not a huge problem. Doing the work is a problem, right? I'm not going to minimize that, but the real problem is when it gets to what we'd look at April, May, June, when it gets to the 7th of August, when the chips are down, which ones have or haven't filed? That's the real difficult point. And I think there's going to be the other thing with practice management solutions, I feel like I'm dancing around a little bit here, but this is where my brain works sometimes, is that I think you're going to have two huge opportunities of practice to get your to potentially win additional clients if that's what you want, and that's in February and March with the unrepresented, right? And also in August and September for any practices who have not got themselves in gear, potentially missed the first quarter submission because they haven't been able to track and keep hold of it, that you can pick up those clients who are looking for a different provider who is not prepared for it. And that's where I think having a solution like Engager in place to onboard those clients who are looking for a provider who is clued up on this as quickly as possible, and having the proposals or the engagement letter process in place to pick up those quickly and it not slow you down. I think it'll be the biggest opportunity for you guys as a practice, rather than the ones who haven't got an onboarding and job tracking process in place for when it all kicks off, right? Be able to pick up the mess for the practices who haven't been on the pilot, haven't tried it, and got their head stuck in. Whereas the ones who have, appreciate you from the goal, will have been, right. It gives you an opportunity to expand your client base if you wanted to do so.
I think that's actually, I can relate it to a real life situation for your MTD for VAT. I have a client at the moment that's come to me. Previous accountants have not submitted VAT returns for MTD since they were registered back in 2022. So I'm using the MTD VAT. There's no bookkeeping. There's no nothing. We've been handed like invoices, and I literally, it's a case of I just need to get them in. And we're using the bridging tool, and it's the first time I'm using the bridging tool for VAT through TaxCalc. So on the same basis, you're right. There are going to be people whose, I mean, this whole podcast is aimed to reach the accountants and bookkeepers that are just come on, let's get on this. But there are going to be people that don't know that we're here, that are not listening. We're trying, and they're going to leave it till too late. And then are we expecting HMRC to send letters to them saying you should have been in? I still don't have letters for some of my clients that I know should be in. So I'm kind of on the fence whether how long it will take to reach them to say, you should have been doing this. But you're right, it is an opportunity for a lot of us that have got our ducks in a row. Yeah.
Exactly that. And I appreciate I'm definitely speaking to three people on the call today. I'm sure plenty of people who are on the call listening, right? Being engaged in this understanding is the first part of it. If you're engaged in it, you are then likely to put some of that into practice. It's the ones where they're ostrich-in and not really. When they're thinking about, they'll think about it in March next year, and they're the ones who are going to struggle. I mean, I had a chat with the tax team on Friday. There are 709 TaxCalc practices who have signed up to use the TaxCalc quarterly filer bridging solution.
That's amazing.
Not all of them have made a submission, right? But the fact is they've opened it, they've had a look around it, they've maybe uploaded a spreadsheet to see what that upload procedure looks like. But that's 709 is actually more than I expected it to be, right, at this point in time.
At this stage,
so if you are currently a paying TaxCalc user for tax, you can get our quarterly filer bridging solution for free up until April 2026. So you can get your clients on the pilot and at least trial a client through a bridging solution through there. It's not currently available yet for people who are not paying TaxCalc subscribers for tax. We are looking to make that available for them, and we are also going to make a direct to business approach as well. That if you think a client wants to make their own bridging solution, make their own submission to quarterly filer themselves, but don't want a bookkeeping system, they'll be able to purchase the bridging from TaxCalc as well. Yeah, like they can do for VAT filer in a minute. I mean, like they can technically do for their own personal tax return as well. They can do that. We do generate a weird amount of income from the unrepresented through TaxCalc as well. But so we are going to offer that. But of course, there's severe discounts for the accountants doing it themselves, doing it for them. But it's important to know that if you have a client that says, I want to do it, but I don't want a bookkeeping system, there is a facility for them to take and them to manage it through there as well. So that's quite an interesting
Nick, do you know when they're likely to release the pricing for the MTD course of funds and how much it's going to be?
This is probably the one time in this hour, right, I'm going to put my corporate TaxCalc hat on. Okay, I do have a TaxCalc hat I'm going to put on at this point in time, right? So the TaxCalc pricing will be in line with our great value solutions that we provide on the market today. Okay, right. I will now take that off. Okay, we don't have pricing yet. Okay. Yeah. The thing is we were stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place on it, right? In that we're thinking of going down the consistent approach we have at the minute, so with VAT filer, where there's like a small, medium, and unlimited approach, and we put that to a focus group of current TaxCalc users and not, and some came back and said, yeah, that sounds great. Some came back and said we'd actually wanted to be a client by client charge, literally one by one, right? So we're putting the figures together based on what people want, but we're not yet. We're not yet at the point to fully release that. I would expect that we would have that fully released and ready to go by Christmas. I'd be amazed if it falls into next year, right? Don't hold me to that, right? But yeah, I would say we want to be giving you. Yeah, well, okay. I want to be giving you minimum a quarter before for your clients that aren't on a bookkeeping solution to be able for you to price that up before it goes live. And I think that the rest
there's
of
so many unknowns at the moment, and I know that people are thinking about pricing in general, and then if you've got that extra sort of software to price for as well, it's just so people can plan. But yeah, no, I appreciate it's difficult.
I mean to be clear, right? I appreciate. I think Zero Simple is it £7 a month, right, for that per client? Yeah, obviously, TaxCalc will be way below that, right? Way below that. Yeah, so it's not going to be comparable to the cost of a bookkeeping solution. Okay, in that, for example, our VAT filer product is, I think it's £93 plus VAT a year, and you get to do 12 clients on that. So you're talking, what's that? £8 per client per year. So what's that, 75p a month for that? And that is and that is our most expensive banding per client, right? It might be around that. It might be a little bit more. I don't know, depending on how we do it. But I expect we will have that released in around Christmas time. That's what I would look. A nice little Christmas present, hopefully, for the TaxCalc users, because it's our most requested part on the system is how much are we going to charge for MTD, as you can probably expect, right? Hence why I have the corporate line to give for that one.
I think you smashed it as well. Your PR training is on point.
It's improved, Aaron. It's improved.
Okay, let's go through some of the comments we've got coming through, because I've got a few questions as well. Kirsty says, curious to hear about the MTD for non-software. I know we've covered most of it, but I think just to clarify on that one, and I think a real good point I've not really thought of before, I think it's a really good USP that you've put there, is that idea that you've got that template that's available. Now, you said direct to consumer, direct to business option. Are they going to get access to those templates as well?
I imagine so, but in that scenario, what I would expect you to want to do is to have is like a approved template that you are sending out to them that you want them to use. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking the template that's just live on the TaxCalc website to then take the TaxCalc logos off and put your own practice logo on. You literally can do that. Amy's probably done that already. Have you done that already, Amy?
I've done that already.
There you go. Right, there you go. Because to be clear, some of the other bridging solutions on the market are mandating a specific template that they have to use, right? It's almost like a lockdown version of the template for them to just fill in the amounts. TaxCalc can look however you want. It can be whatever template. The only thing has to be is that you have to have details of your purchases and sales on a tab or separate tabs, and that can then feed through to a lead sheet with your relevant fields that HMRC want, either as a short form or full form, depending on if it's over that £90,000 worth of income. So yes, there is that template. It's ready to download on the TaxCalc website. I think if you just Google TaxCalc MTD for it spreadsheet, I think it comes up ready for you to download to kind of understand what that looks like and what the client wants. But like I said, it can be whatever you want as long as the lead sheet has the information which HMRC wants on it, and that has your digital links of the data coming through, right? You can't just type in those lead boxes and submit it, because that will not be allowed. You've got to have the detail behind it, even though the detail does not technically get submitted. It's the lead sheet that gets submitted.
Makes sense. Elephant in the room on this one. Your answer sounds like I was finally around to my way of thinking. Now, for clarity, I've always, or my hope is that I can have a end of year submission solution that will do both sets of tax returns going forward. So if I'm MTD or non-MTD, and the solution you've just said there, absolute chef's kiss. I think you've really thought that through, and I think you've made it as simple. And you've thought about the accountant's needs, the accountant's pains, and you've developed a solution to help that. So hats off to you. That's absolutely brilliant. But what I think what you might be alluding to here, though, is in the bit I still don't get my head around, and this is a chance for you to defend this, and I think Amy may be thinking about this as well. It's this idea of doing your quarterly submissions on another form of software outside of FMS as well, when they've already got an FMS solution. And Joanne's reasoning behind this, which is valid, is that, well, I only have to train my team one way of doing it, right? I can then extract the data off any software in the world, and my team then know to grab that data, put it into TaxCalc, and you can submit quarterly going forward. Now, I see the benefits to that, but I just feel like there is a lot of negatives. It's going to be one of those, isn't it, where I don't think there's one solution to fit all for all type. That every practice out there is going to be different. But I do know there are practices out there where, you know, that extra bit of work of extracting, uploading is going to be costly, right? There's going to be a capacity issue there that they've got to figure out if that's worthwhile or not. And I also feel like from a client's point of view, my biggest pushback to people thinking about this is just consider your clients is, well, how are they going to feel when they're not going to see a fancy button saying it's been filed in product? Maybe there's an option to say filed manually or something like that, maybe. But also, it doesn't. So from your point of view, have you seen that? Have you seen many people wanting to do that method? And are you behind it? Do you find it like just give us your views on it? That'd be great.
Yeah, so it's funny that I was at Accountex obviously last week. One of our many trips around the country was Accountex last week, and there were a number of people who came off a talk that was done by another provider in the market, and they were actively suggesting that you take the information out of the FMS system, put it onto their bridging solution, so the equivalent of say TaxCalc's bridging solution, and make that submission through that product so that it's neat and tidy, right? I personally do not transcribe to that method of thinking. I think that yes, I appreciate where Johan's coming from, that it keeps a consistent approach. The staff members that only need to know how the spreadsheet needs to look potentially, right? But I think that you're still having to train your staff how to get that data out of the FMS system, right? In a consistent way and tidy it up. And it might not come out in a consistent approach across all the different systems before tidying it up. I think it's much easier to train them on how to use the bookkeeping system properly. Yeah. So you've got the reporting data, you can drill down to it, you've got much more availability in that, and make the submission through that software, because that's where the data is at its tidiest, and it's where it should be in my. But there is a bridging solution there if for whatever reason the client has absolutely destroyed that quarter, right? And you think rather than go through the weeds of the bookkeeping solution, I just want to export it, tidy up in a spreadsheet and submit it. You have the facility to do that. That is possible. Yeah. So
does that not break a digital link if you're tidying it up in the spreadsheet that you've exported?
Well, no, because you're still giving the detail of the information behind it, right? The difficulty is that, you know, let's say your client messes up Q3, yeah. At that point in time, you would have to export Q1, Q2, and Q3 to put on the spreadsheet to submit it, because it wants that cumulative year-to-date figure, to tidy it up and submit it, which is where, like I said, I think that would be used in much more of an extreme case than what I would want the norm to be. I can see why people do, why people potentially want to go down that route, and people, because a lot of people like working with spreadsheets, right? Because they know how that works, right? But personally, I would be looking bookkeeping first, bridging second, depending on the situation. That's where I will be looking at, right? Like I said, there will be more and more clients requiring bridging solutions the further on down MTD we get, particularly when those turnover bandings do drop. And there will be lots of practices who decide that bridging solution is their preferred way of doing it. As long as they are doing it, right, we don't fundamentally care, right? As long as they are doing it, that's the main thing. And you know, it was interesting speaking to Sam Wood on our table yesterday, and that's the biggest thing. He was concerned about HMRC calling it bridging software and thinking it was potentially quite disparaging to the providers who are offering that as a service. And you know, but my opinion is that we know what the service is there for. We know that it's not a full bookkeeping solution, and we're not embarrassed about that by any stretch of the imagination. It's there to bridge the gap between your clients not being compliant and being compliant through a spreadsheet. Yeah, that's the main thing. So, yeah, it's there to keep you compliant if the bookkeeping system either is not suitable or cost prohibitive, or you just need to quickly get it out, sort it out, and send it. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, Aaron, is that the answer you're expecting, Aaron, out of interest, or is that different from?
No, I love the honesty. I'm really, really happy with that. Amy, what's your opinion now? Because you're still a bit and ahhing of where you're going to go with the practice, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm not in the pilot. I've actually not done any submissions. I came into doing this podcast with one view, and then TaxCalc released in July, was it, Nick? July?
Yeah.
I was very much in the free agent metal free option for people, or if they had QuickBooks, have QuickBooks, and Zero, have Zero, blah, blah. And then I was going to have to go into each of them and do the submissions for them or review them. And I'm of the same opinion in Johan in the sense of I've got a very small team, predominantly using QuickBooks, and I'm going to have to train them. So I'm going to have to learn it, and then I'm going to have to train it. But the thought of then, training them to extract, to then put in, it's not going to work. So we're going to work. I think I'm looking at it now that we're going to work with the software that we've got. I'm going to have people that are not going to get on software now. And it's going to get increased as it gets on more. That's where I go, do you know what? We've got this bridging solution, and then potentially just have one person trained on doing that, maybe. It's the staffing bit that's the problem for me. I'm personally comfortable going into the different softwares. We've seen them all. And like Nick says, I think that it's going to be check everything, press of a button. If I can manage it all within TaxCalc, and I can see what's going on and what submissions have been done, and then link with Engager. It's the first time I heard about that potentially happening. So, I mean, I know you just spoke about it last night, but in my head it's happening. Yeah. Make it work, Johan. Make it work.
In your hands, it's happened, Amy, just for reference. In your head, it's already happened. That's the thing.
Oh, it's happened.
Yeah, in Johan's head. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So just keeping track of it. I think we've never come into this in a one size is going to fit all. So loving the banner, by the way, breaking news.
Aaron's trying to get me in trouble. That's what he's trying to do. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to be a one fits all. We know this from talking to different people. Everyone has different needs. But having this it's calmed me a bit, because I can go, do you know what? If it doesn't work, I can still file. So it's going to be, for me at the moment, I'm sitting in the bit of everything. Haven't sent messages out to my clients yet. Or further messages out at the start of this podcast. I thought I'd be like, by now have a kind of ironclad, this is exactly what your options are. This is what the pricing is, because I'm going to be waiting for TaxCalc pricing. Yep. So not quite there, but I'm playing around. Like Nick said, I have a copy of the spreadsheet. It's so simple. But it kind of, when you think back to the original intention by HMRC with all this, it is simple. And I was talking to HMRC at Accountex, and I was saying that I feel like there was, at the start of the year, it's so much more complicated because we're like, cool, we've got this. This is a way. MTD is a way for us to get our clients on bookkeeping, so we can provide this extra service and this extra service. We can do this and we can do that. But actually, at the crux of it, it's a quarterly submission. We just have to figure out the best way to get it in there. And a lot of my clients are not going to be looking back. Realistically, they're not going to be looking back to see, when I've submitted it and what. Then a lot of, no matter how much we try, a lot of our clients don't see the value in it. So they're just like, okay, yeah, whatever.
But also, Amy, that 95% of your clients, the information which you've submitted on a quarterly basis to HMRC is going to be changed potentially quite dramatically by the time you submit the final tax return anyway. Yeah. So, I've always heard from the start that I'm going to do nil submissions, I'm going to do estimated submissions, right? I cannot stress enough, if you get your clients in the habit of doing nil submissions or estimated submissions, you are never going to get them over the point of actually having to do it properly, right? If you get them into the habit of doing it properly as soon as you can, it will save you aggro in the long run by a mile. So I appreciate that's not for the three of you on the call, right? That's potentially for if anyone picks up this on a reel or whatever you share. Absolutely get them into the habit of doing it right from the start, because if you get them into bad habits at the beginning, you're never going to get them out of it. It's never going to work. Right? They need to understand that the reasons why you're explaining why they need to do it in a particular way for the end result, right? Because I'm adamant that quarterly payments will come in later on down the line. Am I against that? No. I think if we didn't have pay as you earn for employees, and we had to make payments twice a year, can you imagine the absolute carnage that every employed person had to pay tax twice a year? I think that we should be moving to a more consistent pay structure for income tax as well. I'm sure some people will shoot me down for that, and they should be once a year rather than twice, right? But yeah, it's again, if you get them into the habit of doing more accurate information on a quarterly basis, if that ever does come into effect, it will give them more accurate quarterly payment information as well, right? So, it's if you can be almost ahead of HMRC in a way, which, sometimes has been quite dangerous because they change route quite frequently, as we all know. But if we can be ahead of that, I think it will only set you up for the long run, because I don't think that would take you any more time to get them right at the start than it would do in 2 years' time, right? I think it will take you longer in the future if you try and shortcut it now.
I feel like you need to do a motivational speech that I can send out to my clients that don't have this bank account.
So this is one thing I just want to reference, right? I said it at the start, my favourite, if you're going to go down a bookkeeping route, it will be getting a NatWest, free agent, Royal Bank of Scotland bank account and going down the free agent route, right? It gets them into having a separate business bank account so that it separates all that information out. And that is the first battle, I would say, that makes the rest of the process so much easier, because you then don't have to separate it all out. It's all there, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that it's then free to get across the cost prohibitive issue as well. They are the nicest to deal with from a user perspective and a vendor perspective as well. We've got free agent into a few of our internal sessions to explain what the product is and how the integrations works, and they're all lovely. That's why they always win friendliest software of the year awards at the ICB for the last 3 or 4 years running, whatever it is. That will be my preference, but I appreciate that there are some things that free agent maybe can't do that all the others can that they need to. But yeah, that's who I will be going down if it was my practice. But then doing your end of year tax returns in TaxCalc, right? Because it is that consistent approach. If you've got some clients on free agent, some on QuickBooks, some on Xero, some on bridging solutions, you then have a consistent approach for the tax return that is the same as it ever was, but with a pull through of information from HMRC, no matter how the quarterly update was submitted. That's the driver. Yeah, that's the key thing.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
And I love the fact, Nick, you've been saying, basically reiterating what we've been trying to say on here. So
amazing.
You are welcome back here anytime, Nick. Anytime. You are supporting our cause. So we love that. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the comments just to keep everyone in check. Aim says, hello. Sorry, I'm late. So thank you for coming along. Johan also says, that's the dream and the goal, as Nick already referenced. It's great to see that one. You can add a custom field in Engager as a drop down. Would we do it already and book email? So the functionality of custom email is already there and Engager. Good to see that one. James saying, think this solution could be our savior for having clients of multiple software. QuickBooks Xero free agent. Hopefully we don't just ruin that for you there, James. Hopefully that's still a dream for you, but good to see. Claire says, I've been looking around LinkedIn and Facebook trying to work out where the comments were coming from. Hello, Claire. Thank you for commenting. Kirsty says, I think they may moan, but we'll see the benefit when we're the year.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
spot on. And then Claire comes back. That's exactly what I'm telling clients. Metal free and brilliant plus metal prompts them to upload receipts, which we love to see. Amazing. I'm cautious of time. I've got one question my end. Suzannah, do you want to go first? Any final questions you've got for Nick?
No, I think you've covered everything that I've asked sort of things as we've gone along. So no, nothing else for me, I don't think. Thank you.
No problem.
Amy, go on. The floor is yours.
I'm just glad that we have a solution for the people that are not going to go down the bookkeeping route. No matter how much I agree with Nick, no matter how much we would want them, because we can see the benefits, especially if there's growing businesses and we're going to end up in VAT or whatnot. It's best to start at the mean to go on.
But also for those ones that come to you, like at the beginning of the quarter when they're being mandated and they haven't got anything set up, but they might have a spreadsheet, you can start them on that and then potentially move them to software. So it'd be good for that.
I'm still on the fence as to whether I'm going to give this as an option to clients now that haven't got anything. I think I still might try the metal free agent, or if they're using another bank with QuickBooks or Xero, I think I might try that first. But at least I know if they don't do anything about it, I can still satisfy the compliance side of things. And I'm just really pleased with the keeping track all in one place. That for me, and we did an episode about other software, so actually feeding it through to the practice management software. Oh, amazing. So I'm a happy chappy.
I think it's definitely, by itself, that whole idea of having that client-focused view, that holistic view, absolutely a winner in my eyes. I think that's where you're kind of going to win a lot of hearts and minds of accountants, put it that way. I think that's a solution we've been wanting for a long time, and the fact that it seems like TaxCalc deliver that, I think that's the cherry on the top. My final question, though, to you, and this is more of a, you might want to, I don't know if you've got just a Nick Moss hat that's not related to anything, it's just your personal opinion.
Yeah.
But we were always threatened that bridging for VAT was just going to be a temporary thing. Like, it's a temporary solution that's here for that. What's your gut feeling? Do you think we're going to lose MTD bridging and then one day MTD for VAT and then one day for MTD? Well, for the bridging side, do you think it's here to stay? Because it feels like we always need it, right? It feels like it's a accountants and bookkeepers tool for our toolkit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say is it went from when MTD for VAT came in, that the numbers of people using that solution at TaxCalc have not dropped at all, right? It stayed pretty consistent, I would say, based on the number of users that we have. We signed up 1,700 new practices to TaxCalc last year alone, right? So, of course, our VAT filer numbers went up, right, across the board, but they went up in the same percentage of users and licenses across the board, right? So it's not like they're going down or going up, more people using it. It's pretty consistent across the board. So and that's been since MTD for VAT was mandated. So as much as a lot of people would, particularly bookkeeping systems, would want it to be removed, right? I think there is always the need for, if someone wants to start a sole trader business, they can literally get a spreadsheet, start filling information, and then look at software 2 or 3 months down the line once they feel like the business is viable, right? So they can be compliant for doing it. I appreciate that this is once it's £20,000 and above, they have to submit it, but what's to say what's going to happen in 2029 and onwards, right? When they might say everything has to be done, right? So the fact that spreadsheets allows it to be compliant, I can't see it going away unless the requirements for the type of information that gets submitted changes. And it'll be the same for MTD for it. So I do think there's always a position for it in those circumstances that I've already referenced before.
Amazing, and obviously we'll hold you to that when it.
Absolutely.
Well, Nick said it was never going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one more comment to come through. Mahu says, thank you very much all. Love the discussions episode. # Ask the Accountant Network. Thank you so much for your support. Right. I think that's it. A little bit ahead of schedule by 2 whole minutes, so we get to give 2 whole minutes back. But thank you so much.
TaxCalc always quick, Aaron. TaxCalc always quick, Aaron. You get everything done quicker with TaxCalc.
Well, Nick, this is your moment. Plug away. Where can people find you? All that sort of stuff. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just find my name on LinkedIn. Add me on there. Share some hopefully decent content there that's not too sales specific. But yeah, absolutely, definitely reach out to TaxCalc if you want to know any more about this. Like I said, there's 1,700 firms that moved across to us last year. We've got 12,000 practices up and down the UK using TaxCalc. So yeah, definitely have a look at it. You can take a free trial of it. I appreciate Johan's not on the call today, but Johan's a staunch TaxCalc user as well, and with the Engager integration coming. Hopefully this month, a bit of integration between it. There's your breaking news on the podcast that hopefully by the end of this month there will be some TaxCalc and Engager integration by the end of this month, and then full 2-way integration by the end of the year. Okay, that's the aimings that we're going for. Whether Johan's happy for me to share that or not, I don't know. We'll find out after the call. But that is what we are actively working towards if all goes to plan. I'm sure that all the things can always come up, but that is what we're ideally looking for. So absolutely, if you're already an Engager user, I recommend you take a free trial of TaxCalc products, and if not, absolutely just have a chat with us, right? We're friendly. With our user retention rate is, I think, 97%, right? People don't tend to leave us. I appreciate Amy uses for a long time, right? So yeah, find out what we can do, and definitely I'm very happy to take you through the product on a one-to-one basis if needed.
Amazing. And Johan has the power to take down this whole stream, so he hasn't taken it down. So that must be he's fully on board with it. So that's cool. Suzannah, anything you want to final say? Is anything you want to push and promote? Go for
it. Just if you're an ICB member, remember that you can now vote for the vendor awards for the Lucas. So check your emails or go to the website and make sure you do that, because it's your chance to have your say.
And a little birdie told me the accountant might be involved in that as well. So
yeah.
potentially. Hashtag Audit Amy, go for it. Plug away.
So another episode of Being Counter to Boss is out today with me and James Walsborough and Will Rush of Expert. I think QuickBooks Labs is back soon, Aaron. I haven't got the right date in. Oh, we're losing him. Yeah, so I've been a little bit quiet. I've been in audit season, so I'm back. I'll be back on LinkedIn. Yeah, get chatting to me.
Amazing. Well, Nick, thank you again for being here, giving up your time and coming from it. Really appreciate it. Very, very insightful this one's been, and the fact that you've been supporting what we're saying has made it even better for us. I've still not figured out the background music, so the closest I've got for a cheer is this.
That's great.
It will have to
elevator music.
Yeah, I'll have to do for now. But thank you again, Nick. That was supposed to be cheerful.
No problem.
And a round of applause. And that's it. That's been another exciting episode of MTD Watch Series. Thank you very much for coming on. Next week we've got a really exciting one. We're going to sum this all up. We've taken you to all the different software vendors out there. We're going to have a bit of a debrief and try and give our opinions where things are and some breaking news on one of the vendors and what they've brought in. And I promise you, it is so exciting. So it'll be good to see. Again, Nick, thank you very much. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for Suzannah. And with that, we will see you this time next week for another exciting episode of the MTD Watch Series. Hopefully, I'll have a voice back by then as well.
Yay!
So there we are. Fingers crossed. All right, cheers, everybody. See you again. Bye.
Bye.
I pressed the wrong button. Bye.